Welcome to African Folktales by Mozzie. Please subscribe, like this video, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Don't forget to turn on your notifications so you never miss a new story. Today, I will tell you a story of a woman who fooled 7 kings. You won't believe her secret. Adesua was unlike any other woman in the land. She was clever, quiet, and had a way of observing everything around her. Her village whispered about her beauty, but what they admired most was her mind. From a young age, she learned to read people, to sense hidden motives, and to hide her own intentions. When travelers came through her village, bringing tales of kingdoms far and wide, she listened carefully. Each story was a lesson. Each tale of kings and courts revealed weaknesses, desires, and secrets. She dreamed not just of seeing these kingdoms, but of walking through their palaces, speaking to kings, and learning their hearts. Her mother warned her, "Adesua, a woman with too much ambition can be destroyed by her own dreams," but Adesua only smiled. She had a plan, one she had kept locked in her heart. A secret so powerful that it would change her life forever. She didn't yet know the dangers that awaited her, nor the allure of power she would face. But she felt ready. The world beyond her village called to her, and she would answer. Her first journey was to the kingdom of Oyo. Adesua traveled alone, carrying only a small bundle of clothes and a few coins. She walked along dusty roads, her mind constantly alert. Each traveler she met became a source of knowledge. They spoke of King Adwale, a ruler feared and respected in equal measure. They whispered about his pride and his weakness for clever women. Adesua smiled at the thought. She understood that a clever woman could bend even the strongest man without violence, without threats. When she arrived at the city gates, she was greeted with suspicion. Travelers rarely came here unannounced, and a young woman alone drew curiosity. Adesua bowed respectfully and spoke with calm confidence. "I come seeking knowledge, your majesty, and the honor of learning in your court." Her words, measured and polite, reached the ears of the gatekeeper, who paused. He had seen women beg for favors, cry for mercy, or flaunt beauty to charm the court. But this quiet confidence unsettled him. He allowed her to enter, unsure why, but certain that she was different. Adesua felt the thrill of her first step into power. She had begun. King Adwale was known for testing those who came to his court. He would watch silently, speak only in riddles, and measure courage in subtle gestures. Adesua waited, observing the palace. She noticed how the courtiers whispered behind closed doors, how servants moved with silent precision, and how the king's eyes lingered on those who dared to speak boldly. She made no sudden moves, spoke only when spoken to, and always smiled lightly. It was during the evening feast that he noticed her. King Adwale, a tall man with piercing eyes and a voice that could command armies, looked directly at her. "You are far from your village," he said. His words were not cruel, but they carried weight. Adesua bowed. "Yes, my king. I seek to learn the ways of your court, not to disturb it." He studied her carefully. Many had tried to impress him, offering wealth, jewels, or flattery. But Adesua's silence, her measured words, intrigued him. Over the days, she observed the king, predicting his moods, noting what pleased him and what angered him. She smiled inwardly. Every king had a pattern, and every pattern could be used. She would need patience. But patience was her strength. Weeks passed, and Adesua grew more confident. She learned the secrets of the palace, hidden doors, whispered politics, and the king's unspoken rules. The courtiers began to notice her influence, though they could not explain why. She did not argue, did not demand, but her presence changed conversations. One evening, a young prince from a neighboring kingdom visited. He tried to impress the king with tales of wealth and conquest, but King Adwale barely listened. Adesua, standing quietly in the corner, caught every word. She understood what the prince sought: admiration and power, and how easily they could be manipulated. Later, in the privacy of the garden, she approached the king. "My king, I notice the prince's desire to impress. If you wish, I can help you understand his intentions fully." King Adwale raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Few dared to speak so boldly about court matters, yet she did it without arrogance. "Very well," he said, a trace of amusement in his voice. "Tell me what you see." Adesua smiled lightly, sensing the thrill of influence. She was no longer just an observer. She was a player, and the game had only just begun. Her first test came sooner than expected. A great festival was planned to honor the king's ancestors, and ambassadors from other kingdoms would attend. Each king watched carefully for allies and rivals, for loyalty and deceit. Adisua's task was simple: observe and report, but the challenge lay in subtlety. One ambassador, a cunning man from Ife, tried to trick King Adwale into a disadvantageous trade. He offered jewels and empty promises, hoping to deceive the court. Adisua noticed the deception immediately. She smiled quietly, recording every word and gesture in her mind. At the feast, she approached the king discreetly. "My king, the ambassador seeks to benefit himself, not our kingdom," she whispered. The king's eyes narrowed. "And you are certain?" "Yes," she replied. "Watch his hands. Watch the curve of his lips. He tells truths only to hide lies." King Adwale nodded slowly. The next day, the trade was cancelled. The ambassador left, his plans foiled. The king's trust in Adisua grew. She had proven her worth, not through strength, but through intelligence. She felt a quiet satisfaction. One kingdom conquered by observation, one king influenced without his full awareness. Her secret, hidden within her calm and cunning mind, grew stronger. Word of Adisua's abilities spread quietly among the nobles. They whispered about the strange woman who seemed to read minds and hearts alike. Some admired her, others feared her. King Adwale, meanwhile, found himself thinking of her often. He admired her restraint, her ability to remain calm under pressure, and the way she seemed to understand him better than his own advisors. One evening, he asked her to dine with him privately. Adisua accepted with a bow, careful to maintain her measured composure. Over the meal, he asked questions not about politics, but about her upbringing, her dreams, her thoughts on leadership. Adisua answered honestly, yet always with caution. She revealed enough to intrigue him, but never enough to betray her secret. She knew that kings respected women who held mysteries. Each word, each glance, each smile was calculated, though it appeared natural. By the end of the night, King Adwale was convinced that she was no ordinary woman. And Adisua smiled inwardly. One king, influenced and intrigued, but none the wiser. Her secret remained intact. Adisua's journey did not end in Oyo. She received word of 7 great kingdoms across the land, each ruled by a king with unique strengths and weaknesses. She knew that to achieve her ultimate goal, she must visit them all. With careful planning, she left Oyo under the guise of returning to her village. Her departure went unnoticed, yet her influence lingered. The second kingdom was far to the north, ruled by King Obafin, a ruler known for his love of stories and riddles. Adisua arrived disguised as a traveling storyteller. Her skill with words captivated the palace. She told tales of courage and cunning, weaving subtle lessons into each story. The king, enthralled, invited her to stay longer than expected. By observing him, noting his preferences, and listening to the courtiers, she discovered his weakness, pride masked as wisdom. Adisua's method was simple and effective. She mirrored desires, offered subtle guidance, and let the kings believe every decision was their own idea. One by one, she gained influence, building her legend quietly. 7 kings, 7 tests, and 1 secret waiting to be revealed. King Obafin's court posed unique challenges. Unlike Adwale, this king was playful yet suspicious. Courtiers attempted to deceive her, claiming she sought power, but she deflected with calm words and clever storytelling. Each day, she learned more about the king's mind, his desires, and his weaknesses. One evening, during a moonlit feast, she was asked to solve a riddle that had puzzled the kingdom for years. The courtiers expected her to fail, hoping the king would see her as ordinary. Adisua listened carefully, noting the pattern hidden within the riddle. With a quiet smile, she answered correctly. The king's eyes widened. He leaned closer. "You see what others do not," he said. Adisua nodded. "My king, I see only what is before me, and I listen to what is not spoken." From that night onward, she gained the king's trust and admiration. He confided in her, relying on her advice in subtle matters of the court. Adisua's secret remained hidden: her intelligence and careful observation, tools more powerful than any weapon, her ultimate advantage in the game she was playing. After weeks in Obafin's court, Adisua prepared to leave for the Third Kingdom, ruled by King Adigbite, a man known for his temper and love of conquest. She disguised herself as a merchant, carrying fine fabrics and rare spices, and arrived at the palace gates with quiet confidence. The guards, wary of strangers, hesitated, but her calm demeanor and knowledge of etiquette earned her entry. Inside, she observed the king carefully. Adagbite was proud, quick to anger, yet not unwise. His advisors flattered him constantly, unaware that their praise only made him predictable. Adesua smiled inwardly. Her secret was not in deception, but in observation. She learned each king's desires, weaknesses, and patterns, letting them feel she was ordinary while slowly influencing outcomes. Over meals and conversations, she offered insights disguised as curiosity, subtly guiding decisions. The courtiers whispered about the clever stranger, but she remained patient. She understood that influence took time, and a misstep could ruin everything. Every word mattered, every gesture calculated. She had already begun to see patterns between the king's pride, desire, fear. These were the threads she would weave into her ultimate plan. One by one, she would bend their wills, not with force, but with subtlety. Her secret, hidden within her calm and intelligence, remained safe, ready to be revealed at the right moment. King Adagbite was not easily impressed, but he could not ignore Adesua's quiet power. During a council meeting, he noticed how she observed every gesture, every glance, every word from his advisors. When a dispute arose over a disputed border, his generals argued loudly, each claiming the correct strategy. Adesua stepped forward cautiously. "My king," she said softly, "sometimes the land itself speaks more than words. Walk the border, see what nature provides, and the answer will be clear." Adagbite hesitated, but followed her advice. The solution was simple and effective, resolving the conflict without bloodshed. The king stared at her, astonished. Few could offer solutions without challenging his authority, yet she had done it elegantly. Adesua smiled gently, hiding the thrill of success. She understood power differently: control without confrontation, influence without notice. That evening, she walked through the palace gardens, observing the king in private moments. Pride and desire guided him, but she could anticipate his decisions. Her secret, her ability to see beyond appearances, was growing stronger with each kingdom. She had already won his trust, not by flattery, but by understanding. One by one, the kings would fall under her quiet sway. And yet, she hinted nothing of the truth hidden deep within her heart. Adesua's reputation quietly spread beyond the kingdom she visited. Travelers and merchants whispered about a woman whose intelligence rivaled the wisest advisors and whose calm could bend even the proudest rulers. Some called her a sorceress, others a goddess in disguise. But Adesua remained focused, never allowing her legend to reach the ears of those she had yet to influence. Her next destination was the kingdom of Ibadan, ruled by King Olumide, a man known for his charm and love of music. She arrived as a musician, skilled with the kora, blending her talent with subtle observation. King Olumide welcomed her with curiosity, drawn to her talent, but also sensing a mind sharper than her song suggested. During performances, she noted the king's moods, the reactions of his court, and the small details that betrayed his desires. When advisors attempted to manipulate him, she guided him quietly, using stories and songs as metaphors. By the end of her stay, the king trusted her implicitly, unaware of the quiet influence she held over his decisions. Each kingdom brought her closer to her ultimate plan, each king a piece on the board. And through it all, her secret remained hidden, a silent force shaping the fates of 7 powerful men. King Olumide tested her patience in ways the previous kings had not. He enjoyed riddles and challenges, often attempting to outsmart those around him. During a private game in the palace courtyard, he asked questions meant to confuse and trap her. Adesua, calm and observant, answered each carefully, revealing insight without arrogance. The king laughed in surprise and admiration. "You are clever beyond measure," he said. "Few have ever faced my riddles and emerged unshaken." Adesua inclined her head respectfully. "My king, riddles are like life. They can be solved if one pays attention and listens." He nodded, studying her closely, sensing depth behind her quiet demeanor. Later, she observed that the king was vulnerable in moments of leisure, his desire for knowledge and understanding stronger than his pride. Adesua used this insight subtly, planting ideas and suggestions that the king believed were his own. By the time she departed, she had woven herself into his mind, influencing decisions without ever forcing her will. Her method was consistent, her secret intact: observation, patience, and calculated influence. Each kingdom strengthened her skill. Each king taught her more about power, desire, and human nature. One by one, she was building the legend that would astound the world. Yet the true secret behind her cunning remained hidden, even from those who admired her most. The fifth kingdom. ruled by King Ifideo, was known for its strict justice and love of law. Adesua arrived under the guise of a scholar, claiming to study governance and law. The king, skeptical of strangers, tested her knowledge at every turn. She answered with insight, blending humility with intelligence, never revealing her true purpose. Courtiers watched in amazement as she navigated complex debates, offering solutions without claiming credit. King Ifideo became intrigued by her subtle mastery of influence. He invited her to participate in policy discussions, testing her further with moral dilemmas and intricate legal questions. Adesua listened carefully, responding thoughtfully, guiding decisions without ever asserting dominance. Her secret, her ability to anticipate thoughts and manipulate outcomes, invisibly remained safe. As she walked through the palace halls, observing the king's interactions with advisors and subjects, she realized the value of subtlety. A whisper here, a suggestion there, and entire outcomes could be shaped without overt action. By the end of her stay, King Ifideo trusted her implicitly, though he never knew how deeply she had influenced his court. Adesua smiled quietly to herself. She was halfway through her journey, yet the greatest tests and the revelation of her secrets still awaited. The sixth kingdom lay beyond a vast river, ruled by King Iodel, a man celebrated for his cunning and strategic mind. Adesua arrived as a healer, carrying herbs and remedies, though her true purpose was observation. The king was wary of strangers, especially women who claimed skill without proof. She demonstrated her knowledge subtly, healing minor ailments among the court, while quietly noting alliances, rivalries, and the king's personal habits. Iodel tested her repeatedly, sending spies and courtiers to challenge her abilities. Each time, she responded calmly, never raising suspicion. Slowly, the king began to trust her, inviting her into private discussions on matters of war and trade. She listened, offering hints cloaked as questions, nudging decisions without revealing her hand. Courtiers murmured about her uncanny foresight, but she remained unassuming. By observing human behavior carefully, she learned more than any advisor could teach. Adesua's secret, the hidden skill that allowed her to manipulate events without force, remained hers alone. As she prepared to leave, she realized how close she was to completing her journey. One kingdom remained, and with it, the final test of her wit and cunning. Her heart beat faster. The seventh king would not be so easily swayed, but she was ready. King Iodel's farewell gift surprised her. A small pendant, engraved with symbols of protection, and a note that read, "For the woman who sees what others cannot." Adesua smiled faintly, hiding the thrill that coursed through her veins. Few had ever recognized her subtle influence, and fewer still had praised it. Her journey to the seventh kingdom, ruled by King Temetope, was long and perilous. Travelers warned her of the king's sharp intellect and deep suspicion. Undeterred, Adesua prepared meticulously, studying maps, learning local customs, and understanding the court's traditions. When she arrived, she presented herself as a merchant of rare silks and spices. King Temetope, a man whose pride and curiosity were legendary, received her with a mixture of caution and interest. He tested her immediately, offering riddles and questions designed to measure intelligence and cunning. Adesua answered carefully, never revealing the full extent of her knowledge. She observed the court, noting weaknesses, alliances, and the king's secret passions. Each observation added to the growing pattern in her mind. After all her experiences, she had learned the truth about power. It was not in violence, wealth, or beauty, but in understanding people and subtly guiding their choices. Her secret, still hidden, would soon become the key to her final triumph. King Temetope was unlike the others. He was wary of flattery and suspicious of charm, but he loved mystery. Adesua played her part well, offering insights in measured doses, answering questions with intelligence and grace. She noticed how he favored those who challenged him, yet she avoided overt confrontation. Courtiers tried to test her, planting false stories and rumors. Adesua listened carefully, using the misinformation to her advantage. She subtly corrected misunderstandings, guided conversations, and offered solutions that made the king feel in control, while allowing her influence to grow. During private discussions, he asked her opinion on delicate matters of state and diplomacy. Her responses were always measured, offering wisdom without arrogance and guidance without command. Slowly, he began to trust her judgment, relying on her insight to make decisions. Adesua felt a quiet thrill. After 6 kingdoms, she had learned enough to understand the 7th fully. Every king had patterns, desires, and weaknesses. She had observed them all, and now she would see how Temitope measured against the others. Her secret remained hidden, the force behind her success invisible yet unstoppable. Soon, all 7 kings would realize, too late, the cleverness of the woman who had outwitted them. The 7th kingdom tested her patience in ways she had never imagined. Temitope loved challenges that engaged the mind, setting tasks meant to confuse and humiliate strangers. Adesua accepted each with calm focus, never letting doubt show. She observed his reactions, noting pride, curiosity, and the moments of hesitation that revealed true desires. During an elaborate banquet, she noticed a subtle quarrel among advisors, one that could escalate into chaos. Quietly, she advised Temitope with a question rather than a statement, allowing him to resolve the dispute while believing it was his own idea. The king was impressed. "You see far more than most," he said. Adesua bowed gracefully, hiding her satisfaction. She had learned to bend powerful men without revealing her hand, a skill cultivated across 6 kingdoms. Temitope, like the others, began to trust her completely, yet he suspected nothing. She hinted at knowledge she did not fully reveal, playing with curiosity, letting him wonder what made her so unique. Her secret, the clever mind and insight she had honed over years, remained hidden, growing stronger with every interaction. Adesua understood that the greatest power was invisible. And as the 7th king leaned closer to ask her advice, she felt the quiet thrill of approaching her final triumph. Weeks passed in Temitope's court. Adesua observed every nuance, every whisper, every glance. Courtiers began to notice that her presence shaped decisions subtly, yet no one could pinpoint how. She attended festivals, council meetings, and private audiences, always observing, always learning, always influencing. Temitope trusted her implicitly, often seeking her counsel on matters of life and love alike. Yet Adesua revealed nothing of her true self. Her secret, hidden beneath layers of charm, intelligence, and careful observation, remained untouched. She had outwitted 6 kings before him, each victory teaching her more about human nature, desires, and weaknesses. Temitope's court was her final test. Here, she needed to master the balance between influence and subtlety, ensuring her presence remained unseen while shaping events to her advantage. Adesua smiled inwardly. Soon, the culmination of her journey would reveal not only the power she held, but the secret that had guided her all along. 1 kingdom remained, one final act, and the world would witness the brilliance of the woman who had fooled 7 kings without them ever realizing it. Adesua sensed the moment had arrived. She had studied 7 kingdoms, learned every king's desires, weaknesses, and patterns. Her secret, the reason she could influence them all, remained hidden. She carried an extraordinary skill of memory and insight, able to recall every detail, predict reactions, and manipulate outcomes with precision. Temitope, like the others, trusted her implicitly. She decided to reveal her presence not through words, but through action. She organized a grand gathering of all 7 kings in her final kingdom, under the pretext of a diplomatic summit. Each king arrived, unaware that their presence was part of her plan. Adesua observed, noting every glance, every posture, every unspoken thought. Her calm demeanor masked the storm of anticipation inside her. The kings whispered among themselves, unaware that a woman had orchestrated their meeting. She walked among them, polite and measured, offering subtle guidance and discreet suggestions. By the end of the day, the kings had made decisions that favored her entirely, believing it to be their own wisdom. Adesua smiled faintly. Her secret, her unparalleled insight and strategic mind, had allowed her to bend the strongest men without confrontation or force. The kings were astounded by her knowledge of every kingdom, every secret, and every negotiation. They questioned each other, amazed at how she had predicted alliances, rivalries, and desires. Yet no one suspected her true skill. Adesua spoke softly, her words carefully measured, never boasting, never revealing her hand. Each king realized she had influenced decisions without appearing to do so. King Adewale leaned forward, astonished. "How did you know?" he asked. Adesua smiled, her eyes calm. "I listen. I observe. I remember." Temitope's eyes widened as he began to grasp the depth of her abilities. The others nodded in silent acknowledgement, each struck by her quiet mastery. Courtiers whispered, fearful of a woman whose mind could outmaneuver the most powerful men. But Adesua was composed. She revealed just enough for them to understand her influence, leaving the final layer her extraordinary memory and insight unspoken, hidden as always. The kings began to see her not merely as clever, but as legendary. And in that moment, Adesua felt the satisfaction of years of careful observation, planning, and execution. She had fooled 7 kings, yet none had truly realized the power she wielded. After the summit, Adesua withdrew to her private chambers, reflecting on her journey. Each kingdom had tested her patience, intelligence, and courage. She had learned how to read humans, predict actions, and guide events without being noticed. The 7 kings, each powerful in his own right, had succumbed to her quiet influence, unaware that their choices had been shaped entirely by her insight. Adesua's secret was simple yet profound: her mind, her patience, and her meticulous observation. No charm, no weapon, no wealth had been necessary, only her skill, honed over years, and her understanding of human nature. The kings, now aware of her subtle influence, were left in awe and respect, though none fully grasped the depth of her abilities. Adesua realized that true power lay not in brute force or command, but in knowledge, perception, and control of outcomes. Her secret, hidden from all but herself, had allowed her to navigate kingdoms, influence rulers, and secure her legacy. And yet, she knew her journey was not just about conquest, it was about mastery of the self and understanding the human heart. Word of Adesua's feats spread across the lands. Travelers, merchants, and courtiers whispered tales of the woman who had outwitted 7 kings. Some called her a sorceress, others a goddess, yet all agreed she was extraordinary. Adesua remained humble, revealing little of her true secret. She returned to her homeland, where villagers marveled at her stories and wisdom. They asked how she had accomplished the impossible. She smiled, answering simply, "I watched, I listened, and I learned." Her story inspired countless young women and men, teaching that intelligence, patience, and observation were powerful tools. The kings, meanwhile, carried the lessons they had learned from her quietly, forever aware of the woman who had subtly reshaped their decisions. Adesua's influence had become legend, yet her secret, her ability to see what others could not, remained hers alone. She had achieved more than wealth or titles. She had mastered power itself, leaving an indelible mark on history. Years later, Adesua returned to the palace of her youth, where the journey had begun. She walked through familiar streets, observing people, just as she had observed kings. Her eyes caught the smallest details, her mind calculating, remembering, and predicting. Though her adventures with the 7 kings had ended, her skills remained. She understood that life itself was a series of kingdoms, each with its own rulers, challenges, and secrets. Adesua smiled quietly. She had discovered a truth beyond fame or recognition. Mastery of perception was mastery of life. Those who relied on force or pride could be manipulated. Those who observed carefully could shape events without conflict. Her secret, though hidden, guided her every action. And she knew that any person with patience, intelligence, and insight could achieve similar mastery if they chose to see beyond appearances. Adesua spent her remaining years teaching, sharing stories of wisdom, strategy, and observation. She founded schools for young women and men, emphasizing the power of patience, perception, and intelligence over wealth or physical might. Her tales of the 7 kings captivated students, though she revealed little of her full secret. She taught them to observe, to listen, and to understand, skills that could outmaneuver even the most powerful adversaries. Villagers and travelers remembered her as a legend, a woman who had walked through kingdoms and influenced kings without weapons or coercion. Her life became an enduring lesson. Subtlety, intellect, and careful observation could conquer the mightiest forces, and true power often lay hidden where few would think to look. Adesua smiled quietly, content. Her secret remained hers, a treasure beyond gold, beyond fame, a legacy of mind and mastery. In the quiet of her final years, Adesua reflected on her journey. She had fooled 7 kings, shaped kingdoms, and demonstrated the extraordinary power of observation and insight. Her secret, hidden yet undeniable, had been the key: patience, memory, and the ability to understand people deeply. The kings never truly realized how much they had been guided by her wisdom. Her legend endured in whispers, stories, and the minds of those she had influenced. Adesua knew that life itself was a series of lessons, and the most powerful tool was perception. She had mastered it, leaving a legacy unmatched. And so, the woman who fooled 7 kings passed into history. Her secret intact, her story told for generations, not as a tale of wealth or force, but of intelligence, patience, and the quiet mastery of the human heart. The world would remember her, but the full truth of her brilliance would remain hers alone. And that, she knew, was her greatest victory.